So this is part 2 of our video series for week 7, dealing with proportional reasoning and percents. So in this video, we're going to look at different operations with percents, percent change. We're going to look at discount, tax, just different ways that we can work with percentages and look at the definition. So a part to whole relationship compares a number to 100. So that number that we're looking at, we're comparing to 100, which ends up being a part to whole. So that ratio ends up equaling a value divided by 100. So when we have 56%, that's the same as 56 hundredths, which is the same as 56 hundredths. So really that fraction and the decimal really go hand in hand on how you say it, how you write it. 42 hundredths, so that would be the decimal of amount. 42 hundredths, you're stressing the 2 in the place value, which is hundredths, which would be 42 hundredths, which is 42%. 2/3, this is one of those fractions that the more you work with, the more you're going to know what that decimal looks like and what that percent looks like. Trying to figure out how many times will 3 divide 2, and it's not an even amount of times. And what you'll notice is that it starts to repeat. So you'll have 6/10 repeating, which is 66 and 6/10%, and 2/3 would be your minimal amount to write that. Just a side note, anytime you're dealing with percentages or anytime you're dealing with fractions that repeat, 66 out of 99, dealing with 99s in that case, or denominators of 9. So 6/9, 66 99ths, 666 out of 999, all of these would all simplify down and scale down to 2/3. 38%, we would say 38%. That would be 38 hundredths, which would be 38 hundredths as a decimal. 1 and 25 hundredths. Well, we know that this is more than 1, which means that we're dealing with something more than 100. And that would be 125%. Now, just a side note on that, remember that after you do the part to whole, and you're looking for what that would be out of 100, that's 125 hundredths is equal to, okay, what's that percent going to be out of 100? Well, if you're solving for this, think of that as a variable. Multiply both sides by 100, and you get 125 hundredths multiplied by 100 is 125%. 7/8 is the fraction. And so when you do that division, how many times will 8 divide 7? And that's going to be 875 thousandths. So 875 thousandths would be the fraction, or 87.5 hundredths, or 87.5%. 200%, what does that look like as a fraction? That would be 200 divided by 100, which is 2. Decimal point is at the end. So that would represent 200%. If you're dealing with 3 and 25 hundredths, we know that that's going to be 325 hundredths, which would be 325%. So again, after you've done the part to whole, let's look at this part right here. After you've done the part to whole, you have the percent divided by 100. If you just multiply both sides by 100, 3 and 25 hundredths multiplied by 100 would be 325. That would be your percentage. 8/5, we could make that equivalent to something out of 100. I just multiply by 20 divided by 20, which would be 160 hundredths. That's another equivalent fraction to 8/5. 160 hundredths would be 1 6/10, and that would be 160%. So let's look at some different type of percent problems. I want to discuss a couple of ways to do that. I'd like to show you that in an equation form, which is what I'll do first, and then in a proportion form. I don't care which way you want to work that, especially dealing with your homework, but I do want you to see that they can both be written as proportions and equations. So 24%, I would have to write that as 24 hundredths. I want to find 24% of 140. So remember with our lesson on decimals, that when we're multiplying a decimal by a whole number, we're going to get smaller. So we're going to get 33 6/10 is our answer there. So that would mean that 33 6/10 divided by 140 is equivalent to 24%. So if you're going to use a proportion like that, you could say, well, it's something out of 140. Something divided by 140 is equal to 24 hundredths. So if I could do cross products as one way to solve a proportion, and that would be 100x is equal to, what is 24 multiplied by 140? That's 3,360. Notice what you get when you divide both sides by 100. You're going to get 33 6/10. That's not a percent. That's just 33 6/10. That's your total. That's your amount that you're looking at out of or divided by 100. Next one, 32% of 252. So 252 is our total, our whole. We're looking for the part, and we know the percentage. So 32 hundredths multiplied by 252 will give us our part, which was 80 64 hundredths. So if you were using a proportion, you would say your part divided by your total of 252 is the same as 32% divided by 100. You'll do your cross products. You'd say 32 multiplied by 252 is 8,064. 100 multiplied by x is 100x. Divide both sides by 100. You get 80 64 hundredths as the part. Next, we're looking for a percentage. I don't know what the percentage is of the whole amount, 23, but I know that it equals 12. So if I want to solve for x here, I would divide both sides by 23. So 12 divided by 23, and I get approximately 52 hundredths, which remember, if I multiply by 100, I'm going to get 52%. There's a few decimals at the end, so that would be an approximation of 52%. If I wanted to use a proportion, I would say x divided by 100 is equal to 12 divided by 23. Cross products, and I would get 23x is equal to 1200. Divide 1200 by 23, and you're going to get your 52 hundredths and some change. What percent, I don't know, of the total, which is 50, is 90? So that means this is more than 100% because the total was not, what the whole was 50, the part's 90. So if I divide 90 by 50, I'm going to get 1 8/10. If I use the proportion, I would say 90 divided by 50 is equal to some percentage divided by 100. So that would give me 50x is equal to 9,000. And then 9,000 divided by 50 is equal to 180, which we were looking for the percentage. So it tells me when I use the proportion that it's 180%. Here, with the 1 8/10, I have to multiply that by 100, which would give me 180%. Another set, I know 140%, which would be 1 4/10 of the whole amount is 65. So I would say 65 divided by 1 4/10. Divide both sides by 1 4/10 here. And I'd get about 46 4/10 as the part. You want to use the proportion, you would say 140 divided by 100 is equal to 65, which is the part, and the whole was unknown. So 140x equals to 6,500. Take 6,500 divided by 140, and you're going to find it to be 46 4/10 as the whole. If I know 40% of what number, so 40% of the total I don't know is 75. I would just divide both sides by 4/10 or 40 hundredths. 75 divided by 4/10 is 187.5. Now that was our whole amount. So 75 divided by 187.5 is the same as 40%. If you're going to use a proportion, you would say 40% divided by 100. I don't know what the whole is. I just know that the total is 75. So that would give me 40x equals 7,500. Take 7,500 divided by 40, and you're going to get 187.5 as your whole. So when you're creating your equation, this 512 is saying 512 is the same as 240%, which would be 2 4/10 of some number. So it's showing that there's multiplication. 512 is the same as this. I would use 512 to equal whatever the amount is multiplied by 2 4/10. So I would divide by 2 4/10. So 512 divided by 2 4/10, I'm going to get about 213 3/10 repeating as the total. If I was using an equation on the next one, I would say 21 is the same as 30% of some number. So I would take 21 divided by 3/10, and I would get 70 as an answer. So this would just mean that 70 is my whole, 21 is my part, and that should equal 30%. So let's look at some with percent increase, decrease. And when you're solving these, you're looking for the difference. And when you find the difference, you're going to divide that by the original amount. So the difference from 72 games in 2017 to 60 games, well, that's actually a decrease from where they started. Okay, so you would take 72 divided minus 60, you would have 12 divided by 72. Now you're just trying to figure out what percentage is that? Well, it's about a 16% decrease in wins. So when you take that 12 divided by 72%, you know you're going to get the 1600ths approximately, which would be equivalent to about a 16% decrease. You can see it from the wording. It went from 2017 to 2018. It went from 72 games to 60 games. It's a drop. It's a drop of 16%. Well, let's flip it. A basketball team goes from 12 wins to 28 wins. Well, that's a difference of 16. So again, what you're looking for is that 16 out of 12, that's more than 100%. Okay, so 16 divided by 12 is 1 3/10, which would be 133% increase in winning. So again, you find the difference in the two numbers. In this case, 12 and 28, the difference was 16. So I'm dividing 16 by where we were in 2017. Where we were in 2017 was 12. So that difference divided by 12, you're comparing it to 12. How is it changing? Well, it changed, it increased. It increased by 133%. And then we've got where we could look at a souvenir. Normally sells for $18. Today, it's sold for $13.50. Let's find the difference. But we're dividing it by 18 because that's what it was originally. So you take $18 and subtract $13.50 from it, you're going to get $4.50 divided by 18. And that's going to be 25 hundredths, right? But that was definitely a decrease because it went down. So it would be 25 hundredths is the same as 25% decrease. Okay. I'm going to skip to percent, tips, and taxes. So after eating your favorite restaurants, you know the bill before tax is $52.60 and the sales tax rate is 8%. You decide to leave a 20% tip on the pre-tax amount. Okay, how much should you leave for the waiter? All right, so we know that we've got $52.60. So one way to work this is we know that that's our total, and if we leave a tip, we just want to figure out 20% of that. So $52.60 multiplied by 2/10, and we get $10.52. So it said, you know what the bill is, the pre-tax, $52.60. So I'm just taking 20% of $52.60. So a question I'm going to ask you on your homework is just how would you be able to explain someone just mental math, just doing about a 20% tip? Well, one would be just to figure a 10% tip. If you can figure the 10% tip, then you would just double it. So if it's $52.60, you could say, all right, it's about, let's work with easy numbers. Let's say it's about, let's say $52, okay? Or $50, you could go with 50. Well, 10% of 50 is 5, because 50 divided by 10 is 5. So if we wanted 10%, we would just double it to make it $10. Well, if you had 15% and you wanted to do a 15% tip and you took 10% mentally and you said it was 5, well, what's half of 5? Half of 5 is $2.50. Well, that's what you would add to $5. So it'd be $7.50 if you were looking at about a 15% tip. So sometimes it's looking at, some people just round up, tip higher, and everybody has their method. But if you're looking at 10%, 20%, 15% without a calculator, you're really just thinking of dividing your total by 10 to get 10%. Double that amount to give you a 20% tip. So in this case, 20% of $52.60 is exactly $10.52. Well, we're going to add that to the $52.60, which is your total bill. and that's going to be $63.12. So how much would you leave for the waiter? Around $11, $10.52. How much would the total bill? Okay, well, so far we have the bill with the tip. If I want a tax rate of 8%, then one way to do this is to take the $63.12 and take 8% of it. So I would take $63.12, multiply it by 800ths, and I get about $5.05 roughly. Add that to 63.12, and about $68.17 would be my total bill. Now notice there's a lot of adding, there's multiplying involved, okay? So I want you to see, though, this $52.60, that's the whole amount. You're gonna pay that. But you're also gonna pay 20% of that. So if you're paying 100% and 20%, you're actually paying 120%. Paying all of that, paying 20% of that, so you're really paying 120%. Well, remember, 120% is a decimal, is 1 2/10. So what if we took 5260 in your calculator and multiplied it by 1 2/10? $52.60 and multiplied it by 1 2/10. You're going to get your total over here in green. And then what if we wanted the tax? Well, we know the tax. See, I'm going to pay what's in green, but I'm also going to pay 8% of that. So I'm really paying 100% and 8%, which is 108%. And 108% as a decimal would be 1 800ths. So if I just multiplied all this in blue, you type that in your calculator, you would actually get the same amount. So this is kind of just compounding all of your work. I don't care which way you solve that. If I give you a problem like that where I'm looking for the tip and the tax, and work that just however that makes sense to you. Again, Tiffany buys a basket of watermelon on sale for $9. And the sales tax is 9%. Well, we know that 9% is 900. So we know that we're going to pay all of this and 9% of that. So what's 100 plus 9%? Well, that's 109%, which 109% is 1 9 hundredths as a decimal multiplied by 9. So either way, if you take 9 and multiply it by 900, you're going to get 81 cents. So that's $9.81. You come over here and type this in as 9 multiplied by 1 900ths, you're going to get 9 8100ths. Remember, in yellow, right here, the bottom, where did that 1 900ths come from? It came from the total amount that the sale was for the watermelon plus the tax. So 100% plus 9% was 109%. Aubrey's dinner cost is $85. She wants to tip the wait staff 30%. So again, one way to do that is to take 30% of 85 and then add it to 85. Well, 85 multiplied by 30% would be about $25.50 that you're going to add. So you're looking at $110.50. Now, if you look at the other way, you know you're going to pay $85. That's 100%. You know you're going to pay that. And in addition to 30%. So you're really paying 130%. which is 1 3/10. So if I take 85 and multiply it by 1 3/10, I'm going to get $110.50. You're going to get the same answer. Here, this refrigerator and range, we'll just say one item is purchased, and there's 5% sales tax. Well, that just means that if you knew what it was and took 5% of it and added it to the original, you would have this amount. Well, this would be 1x plus 5/100x is equal to $834.75. This would be 1 500x. So you see where that 1 500 is coming from. So you take $834.75 divided by 1 500. And your amount was $795 for both of those items. Now, if we wanted to just say, well, I don't know what the price was, but I know that with the sales tax, it would be 1 500. Could I write it this way? Yes. You're just going to divide both sides by 1 500, but you did that over here anyway. So that same answer would be $795. Talking about percents and discounts. So if a shirt is a $30 shirt is marked, it says get 1/3 off. Okay, well, you're just saying $30 and you're taking 1/3 of it. Okay, or $30 and dividing it by 3. And so $10, you get $10 off. So that would be a $20 shirt if you get 1/3 of that. So you got to figure out what the 1/3 of 30 is, and then know that that's what you're taking off of that. A store has a 40% off on headphones. With the discount, the price of a pair of headphones is $36. What was the original? Well, I don't know what the original was, but I know that if I did, I would have to take 40% of it, and my total bill would be $36. Well, this is represented as 1x. This is represented as 40/100x is equal to 36. So 1 take away 40/100 is actually 60/100. And if you take 36 and divide it by 60/100, you're going to get $60. So that's what it was originally. Now, if you wanted to shorten your math on this, you could say, well, there was an amount of headphones, I don't know, it was 40% off. So if it was 40% off, you're really only paying 60%, right? And the amount was 36. So if you just divide both sides by 60/100, that's what you would have done over here. And you're going to get 60 as your answer. So Jessica's Furniture Store buys a couch at a wholesale price for $115.99. If the store gave her a 45% discount, what's the price of the couch? So she's going to buy the couch at $115.99. The store gave her a 45% discount. So we could look at it like this. That's the price of the couch. We're going to take 45% of it. What's that final cost? What's that new cost going to be? And we would take $115.99, multiply it by 4,500, and we'd get about $52.20 that we would have to subtract because it's a discount. So $115.99 minus $52.20, and you could get about $63.80 approximately. Now, if you knew you were getting 45% off, then that means you were really only paying 55% of it. because 55% plus 45% makes 100%. So $115.99 multiplied by 55 hundredths, and you're going to get the $63.80. Number 52, if a bicycle store, a bicycle is marked, get a 30% discount. Well, if I'm getting a 30% discount, then what are you actually paying? You're actually only paying 70% of it. And that's what you're looking for. So $500, 30% off means you're paying 70%. You're going to get that bike's going to cost $350. So those are just some different examples of discount, tax, and let's just look at one more, just make one up on the spot here. So if it was $85.62 was my total bill, and I want to leave a 15% tip, and let's say the sales tax is 11%. So to do a quick calculation of this, it would be $85.62. I want to give 15%. So that means I'm paying all of this in yellow, right? That's 100%. Plus the 15%. Well, that's 115%, which is 1 15 hundredths as a decimal. But I also have sales tax I got to deal with. So that knows it's going to go up more. So I'm not just paying at 11%, I'm going to pay 111%, which is 1 11 hundredths. So if I take $85.62 and multiply it by 1 15 hundredths and multiply it by 1 11 hundredths, I'm going to get $109.29. So, and again, if you wanted to work it another way, you could say $85.62, take $85.62 and multiply it by 15 hundredths. That $85.62 multiplied by 15 hundredths is $12.84 as the tip. Well, when I add that to $85.62, it's about $98.45. But I also need to add the tax, which is 11%. So the $98.45 multiplied by 11 hundredths is $10.83 plus the $98.45. And you get $109 and approximately 29 cents. So different ways to work that. And then finally, if you're given an amount and you want to work with 10%, 20%, 15%. Okay, so if your amount was $80 and you wanted to take 10% of that, then you're really just dividing that by 10. So 10% of 80 is $8. And so that would be your, if you were $80 bill, work with an even number in your head, 10% of that would be $8. You can also think of it like this. Well, if it's $80 and I make it 10 times smaller, then that means that the number has to move to the right on the place value chart. So that would be 8. Well, what would 20% be? 20% would be to double that, $16. Well, what would 15% be? Well, 15% is really just take half of 10% and add it to 10%. So 10% was 80. What's half, or 8? What's half of 8? 4. So you're dealing with $12 to find your 15%. So those are really good strategies and things that you can do with the kids. The mental math part of that would be a wonderful exercise with your groups or in class. Taking 10%, understanding that that number is just dividing by 10. And once you know that and you double it, you can get 20%. You know, you can triple it and get 30% and whatnot. So, but that will conclude our video on percents and percent change and discounts and